Good night, my Facebook friends. Happy emancipation, and then we're on to we are coming up to independence in another few days on the 6th. Giving her a few minutes as usual for my friends to come on. I don't think we want to miss this evening. This evening we have Mr. Robert Davis, and we'll be speaking on choosing your partner intentionally. Now, it can be scientifically done. Have you ever thought about doing it? How is love working for you? How is choosing your partner for yourself working for you? Do we keep on making the same mistakes? Do we keep on choosing the same person but in a different body? And when I say the same person, same characteristics, same body, not same body, but same characteristics, right? And we want to see if there's another way. You know, there's a song that goes, "What's love got to do with it?" If we choose our partner based on love, can we achieve longevity? What does spirituality have to do with it? Does God have anything to do with it? We have to have these discussions. So tonight we're going to speak to Robert Davis on the different things that, make up compatibility. Social background. What kind of mentality do you have? How does your brain work? What's your personality type? Spirituality. Does spirituality have anything to do with it? Does it matter if you are Christian and I am Muslim? Financial. If I'm a saver and you're a spender, can we achieve this longevity that we seek? Some persons are not interested in a relationship, and we're not talking to you. We're talking to the persons that want to achieve a sustainable relationship, happiness. Because persons are in relationships, but are they happy? These are some of the things that we are going to discuss tonight. As soon as Robert joins us, we will introduce him first of all, and then we will have this discussion. As usual, welcome, Robert.
Hi, how are you
As
doing?
usual, I'm asking you to like and share. And I'm asking you also to be very participatory, because that's what helps us to get to the meat of the matter. So it's now a few minutes in. So let's start. Um, Robert, welcome to Boss Lady Live.
Thanks a lot. Pleasure to be
Welcome
here.
to Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And
Great.
we are very honored to have you this evening. Um,
Thanks.
you are, well, I'll allow you to introduce yourself. I know you're many things, but tonight you're wearing the hat primarily of a relationship coach. But just give us a little, background of why you even chose to study this area. I know you are certified by the world-renowned Terry. Is it Orbuck?
Orbuck, Terry Orbuck, yeah.
Terry Orbuck. And so just give us a little overview, as because persons were asking me earlier, what is this scientific approach? What is it all about? So I asked them, just tune in tonight and we'll hear all about it. So please introduce yourself to our guests, and let us begin.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. And tonight we're gonna have a really fun discussion. Anybody that knows me, and Sam will tell you this, is I have a grossly overdeveloped sense of humor. So, um, I'm expecting that kind of approach tonight where we'll enjoy ourselves while doing our best to learn something.
Right.
Thanks, Sam, for having me, and thanks for actually having the faith to believe that I can actually, give something for people to learn. That's
Absolutely. We
all
all
right.
learn
So,
from each other.
all right. So, who I am, first and foremost, primarily, I'm the managing director of a software development company. Um, my hobbies are photography, scuba diving, and music. I love music. Um, I don't know if any of you people have the book Jamaica by Air, but that's actually my book. So I love helicopters as well, hanging out of helicopters. I actually shot the whole of Jamaica from a helicopter
It's
with
an
no.
amazing book, guys. You should get it.
But I'm here because before I became a managing director, I actually cut my teeth. I won't tell you how many years ago, so as not to date myself, but I cut my teeth as an engineer. My first degree was in applied physics, um, then an MBA. But I cut my teeth as an engineer, as a field engineer. Um, so that engineering side of me is a big part of one of the reasons why I did my certification with Terry Orbuck.
Mhm,
Um, so that side of me, and you asked Sam why I did this.
mhm,
Um, I'm back in the dating game. Um, I have a sweet little 6-year-old daughter. Um, but I'm back in the dating game, and I kind of look back and I said to myself, like most engineers do,
mhm.
about a year and a half ago, I said, okay, how best can I prepare myself for getting back into this whole dating thing?
Absolutely.
What did I do wrong in the past, and all of this kind of stuff. And on
Mhm.
top of that, both Sam and I have discussed from time to time, and a lot of my friends, that many relationships don't work in Jamaica for some reason. I mean, I have lots of friends who, you see them going to relationships and you think, yeah, this is it, this has to
Right.
work. And then it breaks up.
And it's two good people, for want of a better
Absolutely.
word. Two good people, but just can't make it work.
Absolutely.
Right.
So the inquisitive side of me and the scientific side of me said, let's figure out, let's both for myself and for others. Let me do this course with Terry Orbuck and figure out how best to approach things, both for myself and also for the sake of helping others.
Right.
Because I believe we're on this earth to help others. I genuinely believe
Absolutely.
that. So Terry Orbuck is actually she's world renowned. She's been on CNN, ABC, NBC, Oprah, you name it. She's a world renowned. Um, she actually is both a clinical psychologist, but she's also a PhD lecturing at a university, and that's where the science part comes into it.
Mhm.
She's actually studied, I think it's over 400 couples for over 20 years. So the reason that my certification is called a science based is because everything that I'm going to share with you tonight is very practical and it's based upon research. So I may say to you, it has been found that, and when I say that, it means that the majority of a very large portion of the population that has been studied, just as you would study a physics equation or a chemical equation that have been studied,
Mhm.
the actual research shows this to be open close quote true. Now, this doesn't mean that there aren't fringe things, and anybody who has done science will know there's something called the bell curve. So if 90% of the people or 95% of the people indicate something, or this works for 95% of the people, there will always be 1 and 2% on the side who are different. So
Right.
I'm going to share with you are what is, let's say, commonly accepted based upon research,
Mhm.
right? Um, I want to, Sam, do you have any questions before I go any further?
Well, but there's a comment from Erica, and Erica was saying, Robert, that's because many of us don't carefully assess ourselves before jumping into a relationship. You did that, and I commend you.
Thank you, Erica.
And so did I, Erica. So did I. And but I have been single now for 2 solid years, and prior to that, I was single. When I say single, meaning not dating, I was prior to that I was single for about 5 or 6, and I would think I'm a good person. But the thing is, I am spending this time to know, and these are some of the reasons why I choose the topics that I do, because myself and my girlfriends and my customers who are males, we have this continuous conversation or discussion or discourse about, do relationships really work? Is monogamy um
Real.
a possibility? Is it
Yeah.
real?
Yeah.
Is love still happening? um are we having transactional situationships? um are we getting too caught up? Are we too busy? And so sometimes, you may also find yourself in a situation where you find a person, whether it be male or female, whoever is looking, you find the person, but the timing is off. That's also another issue that I have found. You find someone, but maybe they are just coming out of a divorce, and so they're not ready to go into something else serious, but you and them really click, or they are into something, and for the sake of the children, you know how that goes. For the sake of the children, they are not content with what they have. However, they are continuing because they have kids and they're trying to work it out and whatever, whatever. So there's several moving parts. So my interest in inviting you, because we had this discussion about you doing your where you're going with this whole relationship counseling,
Coaching.
coaching, sorry, coaching, is that we want to, as adults, I mean, yes, young people listening too, because I've also had discussions with young people who are having the same challenges as us mature ones. It's not only the older set that is having this challenge, they're having a problem finding someone on their, to what we call equally yoked, right? Quote unquote. Not necessarily spiritually, but in every other area, because you have equally yoked spiritually, although that's what it's really meant to talk about. But you're talking about mentality, we're talking about background, which I have found to be the crux of the
Well,
matter if
let,
you
let me
don't
get into
connect
that, Sandra.
background wise. So that's
All right.
what I want you to get in. What is the
That's
science
exactly what I'm
behind?
going to get into. All right. So
Right.
I'm going to get into that. How much time do we have, Sandra?
Well, we sometimes I'll end up in 2 hours, but it depends on your time, because it's
No,
usually
I'm
an
cool.
hour.
I'm cool. I'm
But
cool.
what we do, we vibe with our Facebook and YouTubers,
And you
because
vibe
sometimes
and
the
see how we're going.
conversation is so sweet and so deep and so in demand that sometimes it can hardly finish. That is the truth.
All
So
right. Well,
sometimes we're 2 hours, sometimes we're an hour. It all depends. So I'm working with your time.
all right.
If you have
Okay.
the time, right, Facebookers. I know this is a very interesting topic and a very touchy one as well.
All
Because
right.
we want meaningful relationships. I think that's why we are here, really. Apart from our friends, we'd like to have intimacy in our lives.
Okay. So first of all, I need to. So that's the angle we're gonna go along. Right.
Right,
There is a lot to cover. There's far, far more. One of the things that shocked me when I did this course was how much I didn't know. Literally,
right,
you'd be amazed at how much you don't know about relationships. And finding the right person and the things you just spoke about is one small part. There's a whole aspect of keeping a relationship going, etc., etc. Right? I'm going to be focused on tonight, as you said, on finding and identifying the right person and practical techniques that can do that.
Right.
So that's exactly where I'm going to be going. Feel free, anybody, to just send your comments or your questions. I don't mind being interrupted.
Right.
And one of the things is, although coaching, relationship coaching is a pretty wide area, um, all aspects interconnect. All right. So I might touch on one thing and then give you a small piece of something else that's relevant. All right. So,
Yes.
the first thing I need to do is explain to everybody the difference between coaching and counseling.
Right.
Counseling, therapy, all of that is a different thing entirely to coaching. A counselor or a therapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist typically starts at the present and goes back. So they look at your present behavior and they look at why you're behaving like this. And so they'll ask you, what was your relationship with your parents? What happened, all that kind of stuff, all of that deep, kind of stuff. A coach starts at the present and goes forward. So a coach basically says, this is where you are now, right? And in this particular situation, so I've been coaching for about a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So I've dealt with people at different stages, people who are in relationships and want coaching to make relationship better.
Mm-hmm.
The topic tonight is, you're single and you're looking to make sure that you choose the right person. All right.
Right.
So because of
Yeah,
that,
we don't have no more time to waste, Robert.
yeah, absolutely, you don't want to waste time and
No.
waste energy and waste feelings and emotions.
Yes.
You don't want that, right?
And we don't want to become bitter.
Absolutely. So a coach, which is what I'm going to be sharing tonight, will take the present where I'm going to assume you're single, and we're
Yes.
going to move forward. How do you get from being single and finding the right relationship and understanding what it is that you're looking for in a partner and what you're looking for, very importantly, in a relationship, right? So
Right.
I'm going to start off by just giving you the most current story. This story can't be more than 15 minutes old.
Right.
When Sandra and I started a while ago to actually set up for this particular session, I realized I'd suspected it, but I'd never confirmed it. That the whichever person wired my laptop camera upside down. Right? So it's, in hardware, my camera is wired upside down. Now I do Zoom meetings all the time, but in Zoom, you actually have a control panel where you can just go in and flip the video. So I've never had the problem, for months, right?
Right.
But using Zoom, because in software I flipped the camera.
Right.
But when Sandra and I started testing tonight, Sandra confirmed for me, right, that my camera was upside down. It's hardwired upside down on my
Right.
laptop. So we had, what, 20 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Sandra and my entire screen upside down, because what I actually had to do was flip the laptop upside down. So my laptop is now upside down, right? So I'm actually doing this from an upside down laptop. But that's what coaching and what we're trying to achieve is about. You have a situation, you want a practical way to solve it,
Right.
right? Okay. And as I said, that's why it's called science based as well, right? The things I'm going to tell you tonight are very practical, very easy to implement, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me not say easy to implement, but it's very
It's very
measurable,
instructional.
very absolute and
Right.
measurable, okay?
Right.
So let's start off with you're single. By the way, I'm still in the dating game, so it's actually
That's all of us.
I don't Erica knows more than I do, but being recently single, I'm still in the dating game. So
Well,
um,
Erica got married. I think it's about 2 years now, Erica, because she found her sweet spot.
great stuff.
Yes.
Congrats,
So
Erica.
I'm very happy for her.
So let's start now with choosing the right person.
Yes.
Sandra used some terms I've never heard before. Congrats, Sandra. I've never heard some of the terms you used in that opening discussion, but I mean, we're all here to learn, so thanks for that.
Absolutely.
So the thing about it is that you don't want to get, there are two types of relationships, right?
Mhm.
People look for. One is, this, the fling. You just want someone to sleep with, or to cuddle up or take out with.
Mhm.
But as a coach, and as Sandra said, I'm assuming that most people here want something deeper, more meaningful. All right,
Absolutely. That's why we're here.
and that's why we're here. All right. So
Right.
the key to that is making sure you choose the right person. Um, I will confess something to you. Even though I've been coaching for a year and a half, and enjoying it, I only recently did my own exercises, and it
Well,
was
is it,
absolutely revealing.
but
I have to
isn't
tell you.
isn't that like the doctor and the
Yeah,
nurse
it
and
is.
even
It
the
actually,
massage therapist? We heal
it is.
ourselves last, which is not
Absolutely,
good.
it is. It
So
is,
don't feel guilty.
and it was absolutely revealing. I mean, I was shocked when I
Right.
did my own exercises.
Yes.
So the thing about it is that you want to know what you're looking for before you actually start looking, or go about the task of looking to get into something. You never go to a super, or let me not say never, but think of how inefficient it would be to go to a supermarket without a shopping list.
Hmm.
Right? You just walk, I have to do my shopping today, and just walk into the supermarket. I am a man, so I'm guilty of that. But I'm sure you women are much more diligent, and you have your list. You know what you're going for. So you guys will go in and you will get out of that with your list. You'll get out of the shop 2 hours before me, right? Because I'm just walking up and down an aisle, and if I buck up on something, that's I
Right.
want that. Then I buck up on something else, and you go down the same aisle 4 or 5 times because I don't have a list,
Right.
right? I'm not clear in my head why I'm shopping. I just know that I need to eat, right? So
Right.
I'll shop. That's not the best approach. And the consequences of doing that when you're looking for a relationship can, and very often, is dire. Meaning you can end up wasting a lot of your time, you can end up wasting a lot of your energy, and you can get up both being hurt and hurting someone else, right?
Waste money too.
And money, yeah, absolutely. And the second reason as well that it's good to know what you're looking for is dating. All right. Um, when you go on a date, which is also a part of coaching as well, when you go on a date, you don't want to be trying your best to make the other person like you, right?
Mhm.
Because it comes off fake, right?
Right.
When you're clear about what it is you are looking for on that date, you're more focused on looking at the person you're dating and figuring out, does this person fit what I'm looking for? And it makes the date much more comfortable because you're more relaxed. Your mind is focused on something other than, I'm making sure he likes me. When at the end of the day, you might not even want a person to like you because this might not be the person you're looking for. All right.
Yes.
So let's get practical now, okay?
Hmm.
I'm going to start with, before I get into the practice, I'm going to start with some background information that's critical for you to learn. Let me not say learn, critical for you to know.
To
Many of
know.
you might
Right.
know it already. But
Mhm.
for those who don't, and even for those who do, it's something that you need to be reminded of, all right? There are actually two forms of love, romantic love, okay? There is what's called the passionate love,
Hmm.
right? Which we all know. That's when all the hormones are pumping, and you see someone and you're drooling at the lips, and you're just passionate,
Hmm.
and some people call it the lust part,
Right.
but it's a combination of things. It's hormones, it's other things that are exciting about love, right?
The newness.
The newness, all of that, right? Some people call it the honeymoon period,
Right.
right? That's passionate love.
Hmm.
Okay. One of the myths that I do, and I've done a couple radio programs as well, is I've done what's called a truth. I've tested people on what they think is true and what is not true. So I'm not
Hmm.
going to do that in this case because we're focused here.
Right.
But passionate love, people think that passionate love grows. the older, the longer relationship goes.
Mm-hmm.
That is a myth. Okay, that is not true. All right. The second type of love is what's called companionate love. And companionate love is that love that is a deep connection with the soul of the other person, right? Where you're with that person, you feel warm. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of love that you see two 70-year-olds walking down the road and their hands are, they're still holding hands and they're just in ecstasy to be with each other. That's companionate love.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens in a long term relationship is that the passionate love continues, but it tends to subside. Okay. Now, there are
Right.
things you can do to make that come back up, right?
Right.
It's not good to get rid of that. But what happens is that the passionate love subsides, but the companionate love increases,
Right.
right? And one of the reasons that a lot of relationships break up, especially in Jamaica, is that it's because of false expectations. If you think that passionate love is going to be there for the entire relationship and the relationship is based on passionate love, that relationship is going to mash up because at some stage the passionate love is going to start subsiding. And this is especially true for men. The passionate love starts subsiding. The companionate love hasn't yet grown. And you say, but it's not working. And you go off and you find some other young girl who makes the
Sweet
fun.
you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what long-term love is about. It's about companionate love, right? And that's what you need to be looking for. And there's certain things that need to be there that you need to know early on, right? Early on when you're choosing whether the person you're choosing is whether you're capable of reaching to that companionate love, right?
Absolutely.
One of the things I tell a lot of people is coaching, no amount of coaching, no amount of science, no amount of psychology, you name it, can predict the success of a relationship.
Right.
Um, right? Uh, you can't say 100% this relationship going to work, full stop, right? But what coaching and therapy and psychiatry and marriage counselors and pastors can absolutely do is tell you if it's not going to work.
Right. That is true.
All right. So I'm here. One of the reasons I'm here is to show you to look out for things. I'm going to show you how to figure out upfront whether it's not going to work. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm going to change a few names. I'm going to share stories as well as I go along. Um, with names changed and circumstances changed, but the fundamental story behind it will be the same. I know of one particular person who shall remain completely unnamed who
Mhm.
was recently dating a young lady who was absolutely sexy to this person. I mean, just super sexy, right? Um, super sexy. Um, and was pushing all the right buttons, but something was wrong. And I gave this person not one, but all three of the tools that coaches use. And
Mhm.
all three things highlighted the one thing that was missing. And that one thing that was missing was so important that all the rest didn't matter.
Right.
All right? Okay? And I'm going to get into that. And that story I'm going to come back to. All right?
Mhm.
So, let's start off with the first thing that most people, again, are myth. Right? Sandra, I'm going to ask you the question. Right? Um, Opposites attract. It's good for people who are opposites to get into a relationship. Is that true or false?
Well, opposites. I would say maybe opposites in term of this is just my experience now.
Yeah.
Opposites in terms of you have one person that talk all the time, and another person that don't really talk much, but is a good listener. I would say in that sense, opposites attract. But I would say no, in terms of in a relationship and sexual, if I like sex and you don't like sex, then opposites definitely will not attract in that sense. So I would say it would depend on the situation or the scenario. Depends
Okay,
on what we're talking
that's,
about.
that's a reasonable answer. I'll tell you this, right? Research is almost unanimous on this, right?
Mm,
This is not me speaking, this is research, right?
mm.
Opposites attract, but um, opposites don't tend to last, okay?
Okay. I think
Um,
that's the first time hearing that.
no, opposites attract, but opposites don't tend to last.
Because okay, so let me get that. So opposites attract, and I can see why. Because I can see in you things that maybe I would want for myself, or things that I admire or wish I had. So of course that would be the initial attraction. But then when you get into it, it's not really, it's what you're thinking you want. Am I correct, or am I drowning here? Oh, you froze? Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah,
Right,
I'm
hold
back
on.
again. We got
Okay.
cut off.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah, okay, you heard me?
No, I didn't. I didn't. But
All
we
right.
got
So
cut.
I'm saying, okay, yes, you look like I lost you for a bit there. Okay,
Right.
so what I'm thinking, I can see why opposites would attract, because I may see in you what I probably would like for myself. So
Correct.
initially, that attraction of what I am missing is in you. But by the time you get into the relationship, you realize that was not really, is what I was thinking, not necessarily reality.
Could be
Am I
that's
on,
that.
am I on the right road?
You're on the right road,
Yeah.
especially what you started out with. So I'm gonna start with the ending and then go back to the beginning on this particular point. All right.
Yeah.
When you're looking for someone, look for similarities. Someone who has similar values,
Right.
similar
That
upbringing,
I learned. Yes.
similar goals, right? And a similar life outlook. Similarities is what makes a relationship work, right? Not opposites. But what you're saying is absolutely true. Human beings tend to be attracted to things in others that they lack within themselves. And that is why opposites attract, right?
Mhm.
But this leads to what is commonly called the fatal flaw. Remember that term, the fatal flaw. The very thing that attracted, when you're in a relationship in which opposites attract, the very thing that attracted you, that opposite characteristic that attracted you in the beginning, in 6 months' time, is
Mhm.
likely going to be the very reason why you break up with that person. Right? It's called the fatal flaw. And I'll give you a typical example. Right? Say, for example, you're an introvert by
Right.
nature,
Right.
and you just love staying home, cuddling up in your couch and watching TV. Right? And you buck up, and you're a girl. Let's say you're a girl
Mhm.
like that. And you buck up on a man who is always out with a bunch of friends, liming at the bar, very popular, life of the party. And you see in him what you think is lacking in you, right?
Mhm.
Okay? And that attracts you. And often the man himself will actually be attracted, that outgoing person will be attracted to the girl because she's so, homely and nice, and that attracts him, right? See? And the two of you get together, and for the first 3 months you're fine, first 4 months you're fine, and then you start living together, and the girl wants to stay home and cuddle up with the man and watch TV because that's who she is by nature. And the man says, "No, I want to go out and play dominoes with my friend them 4 or 5
Yep.
times a week because that's who he is. Who he is. He's
Right.
an extrovert, right? And The man starts feeling resentful because this woman wants him to stay home every night and cuddle up with her, which is what she really wants because she's an introvert. And she starts feeling resentful towards him
Mm-hmm.
because when she wants to stay home and cuddle up and stay home and be one on one, he wants to go out and play dominoes because that's who he is.
Right.
The fatal flaw. And after month 6, them broke up.
Right.
Right? The
Because
very
after a while, he's going to go out and find somebody who likes to go out as well, because she's at the same function or the same place that he hangs out. And then by the time they start talking, and the next thing you know, oops,
right.
oops.
And on top of that, he's being forced to be who he's not.
Right.
That's always a sign as well in a relationship. The minute you're being forced to be who you're not,
Yes.
that's a problem, right?
Yes.
So that's the fatal flaw, right?
Yes.
Opposites attract, but they do not last, right?
Yes.
The fatal flaw. The very thing in an opposite attract relationship that attracted you to that person is the very thing that will very likely come back to bite you in the butt and mash up the relationship, right?
Agreed.
So what I'm saying, and that's research, right?
Yes.
So what I'm saying is when you're looking for someone, try and find someone with similar life values, similar religious values, similar financial values, and similar family values as well, right? Those 4 points are an entire aspect of coaching.
Repeat those again for our viewers.
Uh,
Family,
family, finance,
financial,
um, I'd have to look at my family finance, upbringing. When I say
right.
upbringing, I mean values, uh,
Values. Yes.
values. And by the way, finance is a critical thing. That's
Yes. Yes.
research that shows that
We
most
older
divorce.
ones found that out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Research has shown that most divorces are caused by finance issues.
Hmm.
But certainly, similar religious values,
Right.
similar um, um, personal values, similar family values, um, and a similar outlook on life.
Right.
Those things need to be
And
similar
goals. So
and
outlook and goals.
and goals, right?
Right.
That's a whole different section that in coaching you get into when you're getting deeper into a relationship, where you compare each person's expectations of the other, because
Right.
expectations are cool. Now, they don't have to be the same. Now, I need to
Right.
stress that they don't have to be the same. They should be similar. And even in terms of expectations, the expectations don't necessarily need to be the same. But when you're in a relationship, you need to understand the other person's expectation in
Hmm.
order for that relationship to work. But that's the second.
Hold on. Stick a pin. Stick up
Mhm.
before you go any further. Sandra says, is this where the compromise comes in when the two people, or should we compromise then? Since we should be really on the same, or what does compromise look like in a situation like this?
What I'm trying to do is keep the conversation focused, right? So
Right.
I
Okay.
appreciate the question, and
Right.
yes, life and relationships are about compromise, right?
Right.
And practical compromises as well, right?
Right.
And I'll just give you a typical example of how a coach will look at compromise, all right? As
Right.
opposed to just give you a practical example. I have one other friend who, um, you know, his wife likes to go to bed early, like 9:30. He likes to go to bed at 12, right? And he likes to watch his CNN or whatever, and the TV is in the bedroom.
Right.
That could blow into a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Compromise was so simple, it was unbelievable. All he did was he bought a pair of wireless headphones.
Right.
Right? So she went to bed at 9:30, quiet. Right? He has on his wireless headphones, and he could watch CNN till 12 o'clock at night. The compromise doesn't have to be some deep, profound thing, right?
Right.
It's all about being practical, right?
Mhm.
Can you read that for me? Because
Yes, Mr. Henry says opposites can work if people allow each other to grow. What do you have to say about that?
um, That's an interesting point. Um, there's a difference between opposites that are not intrinsic and opposites that are intrinsic to a person. So if the opposite means that one person likes to drive fast and the other one prefers to drive slowly, then there is a compromise, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one of the great things about relationships is that they expand you, or they should expand you. I mean, I
Right.
had a relationship probably about 15 years ago where my girlfriend loved Formula One. I was never into Formula One, and now we're both Formula One nuts, right?
Right.
So yes, absolutely. Opposites definitely can work in terms of if it's not something
In
intrinsic to your
right to
personality.
your
But if it's
personality.
something that is intrinsic to your personality, such as an extrovert or an introvert, or someone who respects people's feelings and someone who doesn't, or
Or
someone who is
someone who spends while someone saves.
right. So that's the
Hmm.
financial part. Someone who believes
Yes.
in spending on everything
Hmm.
and the other person
Recklessly.
saving, right? Or one
Recklessly.
person, right? Or that's a very good point, right?
Hmm.
Those kinds of opposites are intrinsic to you, right?
Yes.
Those are dangerous. So whereas yes, there is you can allow people to grow when it's something that's not intrinsic and deep to you.
Yes.
Uh, Once the opposites are intrinsic to that person's character and their belief on life,
Hmm.
then it's gonna be a problem, right? And
Absolutely.
research has shown that.
Okay, Mr. Henry says, do I discriminate then because a lady is from a dysfunctional family? She could be the odd one in that family.
Absolutely not, because that's not intrinsic. In other words, what we're talking about, it's a good question, David, and I'm glad you brought that up because what we're talking about is your belief or your outlook towards that thing. Okay?
Right.
So you can come from a dysfunctional family, but you believe that family is important. Okay? And that the family should be united, right?
Yes.
If that's your belief and the other person has a similar belief, then that's not a problem. That's not a real opposite. So we're
Right.
not talking about what I'm getting at is the difference between external factors and internal factors.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm not talking about opposites in terms of external factors. I'm talking about what is intrinsic to your beliefs, to your outlook, and to who you are as a person. All right.
Right.
I hope that clarifies a bit on what I'm trying to say. All right.
Hmm.
So I'm going to move forward a little bit now. Okay.
Right.
All right. So, like I said, it's such a wide topic that I'll just
Hmm.
touch on various things, and then. But if I was to go through each thing in detail, we'd be here till 1 o'clock in the morning. So,
I know. We know. So
yeah.
we're
So
just
we're
trying to get a
right.
condensed version.
Right. So we're focusing on one thing, and that is how do you find the right person? So you're at the beginning of your dating, where you're dating people, you need to find the right person. So coaching, most relationship coaches will use one of three tools. All right. And this is where the practical part comes in. And I would strongly advise, well, it would be a good idea to take notes if you are in that stage. So I'm speaking specifically to the people who are in that stage where they're dating, they're going out on different dates, they're meeting new people. All right, that's who I'm speaking to, and you're trying to figure out of these people that you've dated, who is a good fit for me? This is your shopping list when you're going shopping. That's what I'm focusing on now. I'm not focusing on the person who has walked out of the supermarket with a and has all the groceries in the trunk of the car already, meaning
Right.
someone who's already in a relationship and I'm focusing on those singles. How many singles do we have among us here tonight, Sandra, you think?
I have no idea, but you can um just click if you are single and let me get an idea.
So that's who I'm focusing on. That's what this
I
is
see
all
some
about.
married people here and some in between, some transitioning,
Right.
and so we have a mixture.
Right. So I'm focusing on those of the mixture. I'm focusing on those who are at the beginning of their journey, who are trying to figure out what am I looking for, who are putting together their shopping list before they go to the supermarket.
Yeah, man, but even those the ones that are transitioning, you have to know, I suppose, what you want, what happened here
Right.
before you move on.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So there are three ways of doing it, right? And the type of there obviously there are more, but they've been kind of lumped together.
Right.
So coaches tend to use three methods, right? And I'm gonna go through all three methods in detail.
Hold
And
on. Before you go there, a very a very smart person just asked, who is a single person? Can you clarify single?
that's, that's a very good question.
Very good
But you have to
question.
clarify that for
Very,
yourself.
very good question.
A,
What
si-
does
a
single mean?
single means looking for something meaningful. So
And is not already involved seriously, whether it be by
I am not gonna
marriage.
go because you could be involved but still looking. I
No,
mean,
you cannot. You cannot
it
be
has
single and
it
attached
would
at the
have been
same
for a
time.
son. So I'm not gonna impose my value judgments on. I'm not here to put
No,
my value judgments on it. I am the single. Single in the classical terms means not in a serious relationship. Okay, so
absolutely not
I'll
in
sum it up
any
like that.
fixed relationship at the moment.
Yeah, let's sum it up as that, right? But
Yes.
you can actually be in a fixed relationship and still be single, as we know. Before
No, but
people.
that's called laziness.
Yeah, but it happens. Okay, it does happen. In fact,
No,
many
we're
many.
not talking about people who are getting divorced. No, we're not talking about those. We're talking about those who just sit in a not going anywhere relationship, know it not going anywhere, and just sit down hoping that one person will leave. That's what
Well,
I'm talking about. You have those two. We're not talking
okay.
about people who are trying to.
So those people also need to know what it is they're looking for when it
Absolutely,
comes to it.
everybody needs to
So
know
yes, it's good for
what
you to know.
they
So
need and what they're looking for.
okay, so I'm gonna start off with the simple and then go to the more difficult. Of there are three types of methods that are widely used, right? Um, and this is where I'm gonna tell you about I'm gonna tell you about two things before I get into that.
Mm,
I'm going to tell you about what you're looking for, which is basically what it is that will make you happy in a relationship with the other
mhm.
person. Remember, now you're focusing on, so we're not focusing now on yourself. We're focusing about on what you're looking for in the other person, right?
Right.
Okay, that's what we're focusing on here now, right? I
Hmm.
mentioned to you that I actually did this for myself.
Hmm.
I won't tell you how long ago. I did it for myself after coaching. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked because what I thought I was looking for, and I did all three tests.
Hmm.
And what I thought I was looking for, clearly, I was missing a big piece, and
Hmm.
it made a lot of things very clear to me. Right. So it's what I'm telling you tonight is very practical and it works. I can
Right.
actually tell you that myself. Right. Um, I'm not like well. Let me not touch U.S. politics, but but what I'm telling you actually works. It
Mhm.
really works, right? Because I've actually done it and it works. It
Right.
makes it much clearer in your mind what
Okay.
you're looking for. Okay, so I'm gonna go through two things here before I get into that, and this is very basic now. Okay, the first thing is this. Um, Before I get into what other people, what you're looking for in other people, there are two things I need to focus on in yourself. Right. One of them is what's called emotional triggers. Um, Everybody has what are called emotional triggers, and the best way to define an emotional trigger is the statement you're talking to someone, they say something, and all of a sudden you can't resist the urge to jump up and strangle them to death, right?
Mhm.
They've said something that has just created a reaction that is
Them
way out
match
of
your
proportion.
con.
Yeah, way out of proportion
Mm.
with what the person said. That's an emotional trigger. Okay. Everybody needs to know what your emotional trigger is. Right. So that's an important thing for your own personal self development. Right.
Right.
Um, so an emotional trigger is something that you perceive that is lacking. That's a key thing that is lacking from what another person says, does, or behaves towards you. So for some people, for example, respect, lack of respect may be their emotional trigger. Where if they even sense that you don't respect them, the reaction is way out of proportion. Pure bad word and
Mhm.
cuss and want to kill you and blah blah blah. Whereas for another person, myself included, if if I sense that you don't respect me, that's your business. I don't give a hoot. Right? That's not my emotional trigger. You need to know what your own emotional triggers are. I'll share this with you. My emotional trigger is taking kindness for weakness. If I sense, I am by nature a very easygoing person,
Right.
and a very generous person. The day that I suspect that you're taking my kindness for weakness, my
Yep.
reaction is way out of proportion with what it should be. Okay? That's my emotional trigger, right?
Right.
Whereas the same person who suspected that someone is not treating them with respect might just say no big thing, right?
Right.
Each person has their own emotional trigger. It's very important that you know your emotional trigger before you start the dating process because for two reasons. One of them is you need to learn how to control your emotional triggers, right? And the second reason is because if you ever get into a relationship with someone who, by their nature, presses your emotional triggers, your hot button, that's
Mhm.
gonna be one explosive relationship. All
Mhm.
right, that's gonna be fireworks. So you
Right.
need to know what it is and that's the first step before you start actually getting into dating. Find
So,
out what it.
so I'm assuming that this would be a deal breaker.
Oh, well,
If
that's
this
a step right.
person constantly triggers your emotional,
Because that's a deal
right,
breaker.
that's a deal breaker. Okay.
Correct.
Get
Right.
you. Get you.
Absolutely. So that's the first thing that you need to do. And the second thing is you hit the second thing, Sandra. I'm going
Yeah.
to be speaking about what are called deal breakers as well. And that's going to be a part of the second technique. And I need to explain to you what a deal breaker is. Right? A deal breaker is something in another person. Okay? No, we're not talking about the other person. No, something in another person that no matter what else is good, you can't live with it. It is literally a deal breaker, right? And the example I'll give you is I'll use myself as an example, right? Um, my absolute reference in terms of a woman is Vanessa Williams when she was in her 20s. I
Mhm.
mean, Vanessa Williams is just my absolute perfection of a woman,
Mhm.
right? When she did that video, Save the Best for Last, I don't know if you remember that video.
Mhm.
I mean, after watching that video, I was in hospital for a week on sedatives.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, this Vanessa just did it for me. She
Mhm.
is my reference, right?
Right.
If Vanessa Williams this is me fantasizing now. If Vanessa
Right.
Williams went back in a time machine, became 25 years old again, turned up
Mhm.
at my doorstep, came into my house and said, Robert, you're the man I've been looking for all my life. And
Mhm.
I somehow didn't manage to faint, right?
Right.
She comes to my bedroom and she kisses me and she starts taking off her clothes, right? And of course, everything in me is saying yes. And then she says to me, by the way, I'm a devil worshiper. I would put back on my clothes.
Right.
Say,
Because spirituality means a lot
I,
to you.
I would say to her, Vanessa, thanks a million. The taxi's outside. We'll be friends, but
Yeah.
I can't do this. That is a deal breaker. In other words,
Absolutely.
everybody has certain traits um, in other people that no matter what else is good, right? Everything else could be perfect.
Yes.
That one thing you can't live with.
But
That's a
Robert, isn't
yeah,
a part of the problem? I mean, when we're in the sweet spot, the moment, the newness, we don't
yeah,
really ask questions. And the truth is, a lot of these things, unless you really ask,
right.
them not really come out because sometimes persons don't really volunteer this information. You
But
have to,
that's one of the reasons that we're doing this exercise, or we're looking at how to do this exercise tonight, because you need to
right,
know what to be looking for, right?
right,
You need to know in your mind what it is you can and you cannot live with, all right?
right.
And that's why we're going to do this exercise tonight. So the first of the exercises is by far the most simple, right? Um, and what it's called the 15 partner checklist, the 15 quality partner checklist, right? Which I actually did myself the other day. This was one of the three that I did. Okay. Now, the 15 quality checklist, right,
Mm-hmm,
is actually the simplest of all the methods. I'm actually looking at my own here now that I did. Um, and what it is you need to just sit down, take
mm-hmm,
out a piece of paper, and write down the 15 qualities that you're looking for in a partner, right?
mm-hmm,
Um, very, very simple, right? Write down the 15 qualities you're looking for in a partner, okay?
mm-hmm,
So, for example, some of the qualities may be how do they look, right?
mm-hmm,
Do they have money? Are they religious?
mm-hmm.
Do they communicate well? Are they intelligent? You write down all the things that you're looking for. So you say, I want someone who is intelligent. I want someone who is, good looking, etc. But here
Mm-hmm.
comes the kicker.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be specific. Okay?
Right, right.
You're not going to be writing a generic kind of thing. If you say you want someone, for example, who is tall, you
Mm-hmm,
need to quantify it, right?
mm-hmm.
So tall means to a midget, tall means that's proper, very politically very correct. But to someone who comes from a very short family, tall
Mm-hmm,
may be 5 feet 3 inches.
mm-hmm.
Whereas for someone who comes from a family who plays basketball, tall may mean 6 feet seven inches.
Right.
But each of the qualities you write down, you need to be specific. So if you say you want for a girl who says I want a man that's tall, what does tall mean? 5 feet
Mm-hmm,
10 inches or more, 5 feet 8 inches or more. All right.
mm-hmm.
You write down you want someone who is spiritual, right? What
Right.
does that mean? That person should be a churchgoer, a believer, a Christian, or a Bible, a
Carrying Bible toting.
Bible toting, go to church every day kind of person, right? You need to be very specific in each of the
Do
15.
not generalize. In essence,
Right.
do not
Be
generalize.
specific. Write them all down. All 15 qualities as they come to your head. Right? Okay?
Right.
You say you want them to be intelligent. Be specific. What does that mean? Someone who is sharp enough to understand what you're saying, etc., etc.
Have a degree.
To have right, to have a degree, whatever that has to do with education. If you find that that's important, you
Mm-hmm.
want someone who has an education. What does that mean? High school, first degree, second degree, PhD. You need to write down all the qualities and be specific about them. All right.
Right.
This is the easiest of the tasks, or the
Right.
easiest of the three methods.
Somebody, Mr.
But there's
Mr.
more.
Henry says, which percentage of the 15 is pass mark?
That is exactly what I'm getting to know.
Okay, all
Right.
right.
Research has showed if you can get 80% of your 15, then that's typically fine. Right. So if you can get 90%, that's great. 85% great, up to 80% great. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're on a date and that person is only hitting 60% of the things you've written, those 15 qualities, right? That's a problem, right? You want to be at least 80% of the 15 quality checklist. Now,
Erica had asked earlier, what if all values, we're talking about the values now, are not in line? Which are the most crucial of the values? Or is there,
I'm gonna get to that. I'm
oh,
gonna
you're gonna
actually
get
get
to
to
that.
that.
All
Right.
right. Okay.
So
Yes.
there are certain things. Now, what I told you is just the basics. There's more to the 15 quality checklist than I've said to you. Right. One of
Yes.
them, the key things for that 15 quality checklist to be effective is that you need to be specific, as I've said. Right. But one of the things you're going to want to do with that checklist are two things. Once you've done, and by the way, no more than 15, right?
Okay.
15 is your
Just
limit. You
to
cannot
15.
go over 15, right?
Mhm.
Okay?
Yes.
And you should not go under. Try and get to 15, but you can't get over 15, right? Because then it just becomes hairy fairy. So that 15
Right.
quality checklist is a set
You have
number.
to think about it and be deliberate about the
Be
15.
deliberate, okay?
Right.
So that is your 15 quality. But once you've done it, it's highly advisable if you do it with a coach, right? Which is a good thing to do because a coach basically is your third party spectator who
Right.
basically will walk you through and will be the voice of reason and say, you really need a man that's over 6 feet 2 inches tall, right?
Hmm.
Right? You really need that, right? Is that really that critical? But
Right.
also family and friends. So you can talk to family and friends and show them that your mother, your brother, your sister, your best friend, and say, "This is my 15 quality checklist. What do you think about it?" And they may
Hmm.
look at you and say, "Listen, this really isn't you." Remember when you're checking someone who was 5 feet 3 inches and you're very happy. Why do you have that? The person has to be 6 feet, right? Um,
Stick a pin there, Robert. Is it advisable? Uh, I want you to stay on that point a little because sometimes you can discuss your list with someone who is not necessarily in the same place where you are.
that's
So,
an
what
excellent point.
might be irrelevant to her may be death to me.
Excellent point, Sandra. And I thank you for bringing up that point.
Thank you.
The key when you're discussing your list is to make it very plain that this is your list, not
Right.
theirs. Okay?
Hmm.
Because you need to discuss it with someone who knows you, who has been around you, and who knows who
And
you
who
are.
loves you and
Not
who you trust.
necessarily. No, oh, yeah, who's not gonna lead you wrong, but not they don't have to necessarily. They just have to know you and know your personality. All right. And I'm gonna give you some real examples of this now. All right. Dr. Terry Orbuck herself. Okay, this is actually she's married. She's been married for many years, right?
Hmm.
And when this is a true story, right?
Yes.
This is actually a true story, which she told us when we were doing our training. When her husband came to date her for the first time, she had her 15 quality checklist on her computer.
Hmm.
And on her computer, it was a file on her computer. And on her computer wasn't working properly. There was one of the programs had frozen, and her husband is a computer expert. So he comes through the door, and she says, "Before we go out on this date, can you please just look at this computer and see if you can get this program working for me?"
Hmm.
And while he was working, she remembered that that file was there on the desktop, and she rushed up to him and said to him, um, "Please don't open that file that says 15 quality checklist." And needless to say, he couldn't have helped himself. So by then, he had already opened up the file,
Hmm.
and one of the things in the file was that her husband should be taller than 5 feet 8 inches or 5 feet 10 inches. He was 5 feet 9. He is 5 feet 9 inches, right?
Hmm.
And he said, "Sir, I have to tell you that, I've looked at this file and I think I'm fine for most of them, but I'm 5 feet 9 inches." And she said, "Cool, we're still going on." And it turned out the rest of the things that were good in that list, but, she was able to completely look past that one. Remember the 80% rule?
Hmm.
And they got married and they've been happily married ever since, right?
Hmm.
So that's so the second part of this 15 quality checklist, as well as the discussing it with someone who knows you, who will give you some perspective and things that are will also tell you realistically, right? So, for
Mhm.
example, you put on your checklist, the person must be a US dollar millionaire, right?
Mhm.
Anybody, a third party who loves and cares for you will say to you, but this really is an unrealistic thing to put on your checklist, right? But the second thing you need to do once you've done your 15 partner checklist, which is a very good idea, is to tick the three most important things. This goes back to the previous question you had asked. Tick the three most important things on that list. So you'll have 15 things checked, tick the three most important things on that list,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then look at that list, understand the list, actually work on the list to hone it, right? So that it's
Mhm.
clear to you, and then you start dating, right? Because now you have a clear idea in your mind what it is you're looking for.
All right. I,
That,
I have,
that mhm.
I have two questions for you.
Yeah.
Michael says, Michael says, as you get older, the list shortens. Should you shorten that 15?
As you get
Even
as you get older, not only does it, I wouldn't say that it shortens, but it changes, right? As you get
so,
older,
but it changes, but you should still have 15.
you should have 15. Keep the 15.
There you go, Michael.
It will
So
change.
it's not that the list shortens, is that your things change. There's a
Right?
difference.
Get more mature, right? So
Yes,
for
you get more mature, so your taste and your needs change, but you must still maintain the 15.
go absolutely go for the 15, no more, no less, right?
Okay. Another thing, all right. So most of us, and I'm speaking for, and this is now a conversation that we've been having. These are now women.
Right,
You'll have your list and all of that, right? And you know
right.
exactly what you want. I mean, we have never done it, broken it down like this. But so I'm going to work on my list as I finish. But the biggest challenge is that you are not approached. So you don't even have a prospect to say, well, you don't have the 15. So is it okay for the woman to see somebody that she may think have her qualities and approach the person? Someone asked me that in a previous talk that I had. My reason for not doing it, or I should I say my experience, and you can tell me how we navigate this. I find when you are the aggressor, and maybe it's my personality, when you are the aggressor or the person who makes the first move, to me, it's as if I feel like I'm behind the eighth ball because he didn't choose me. Now, that could be in my head, but that's how
Mm.
I feel. What is your thinking on the woman being the one who approaches? I don't feel comfortable making the approach because then the man might have it to say, I'm fast or I'm needy or I'm desperate or any of those adjectives, you
That's
know?
that's a good, that's a very good question, Sandra, and it's not something that I can answer based on research because this is specific to various cultures and various countries, clearly, right?
Right,
We're talking about in a Jamaican environment, right?
right,
The first and most important thing is what you said. You see a man who fits your checklist, okay?
right,
Which is what you're trying to achieve here. In
mhm,
other words, you see the things that you have pre-identified what you're looking for in a person, right?
right.
The next step in terms of what you're asking, should a woman approach a man? I can't really. I guess that has to be
All right,
unique.
so let us personalize it. How would you feel if someone approaches you? Would you, because they say men like to be the hunters. Now I'm 56. Let's get real here now. I'm 56. I don't have anybody stepping up to me on a daily basis. The last time I was asked out on a date was 2 years ago. So what do you do at this stage
Very good question. There, the
if
world
you
has
don't want to be by yourself and
all right.
without seeming desperate
I,
or or
I'm
aggressive?
I'm gonna give you the practical approach now. This is the
Right,
engineer's approach. Okay,
right.
so the engineer's approach is that you need to there. As a coach, what I would do first of all is ask you,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do for in your spare time, right? In other words,
Everything.
yeah, I know, but remember what they say. The I'm gonna just go back to general principles here, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, they say the definition of insanity is doing the same things and expecting a
Mm-hmm.
different
Mm-hmm.
outcome,
I'm
right?
open to changes.
Right. So maybe you might want to widen where you go or change the bars that you go to widen your
No, I
circle.
don't do bars.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things as well in a coaching situation. In other words, if I'm in a coaching situation and someone says that to me, it's very important that I find out where why your previous relationships um, broke, just to find out where we are now. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
if you have picked up someone from a bar the last 3 times and all 3 relationships have gone nowhere, then clearly there's something wrong with picking up someone in a bar for you. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so there are practical approaches to what you're saying. I'll just give you a couple. Getting your friends involved in finding someone for you. I know
Try that. Nobody wants to get involved in that.
Jamaicans are by nature, I find, very don't like that kind of thing. That
No,
works a lot more in the
they
American.
do not want to be responsible for
Yes,
your
yes.
happiness or unhappiness for that matter,
Or be blamed, or be
or be
blamed.
blamed.
Yeah, correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there are other options. There is the online dating option, and there is actually the matchmaking option as well,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
we can get into in another show, right? Where you have
Okay.
someone who is actually looking for you and kind of pre-screening, who understands
So
what
this
you're
is a
looking for.
paid service.
Yeah, paid service, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that works in the States, right? In fact, the ratio now is, what is it, 41 to 59% in terms of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 59% of matchmaking is done online, meaning by online dating, not matchmaking, but
Mm-hmm.
59% of that market is online, like Tinder, eHarm, and etc. And
Right.
41% by revenue, not by revenue, is
Mm-hmm.
matchmaking, because a professional matchmaker is far more expensive, clearly, than going online. But it's a big thing in the States, professional matchmakers. And it works. It actually
Right.
does work, because what a matchmaker does is a matchmaker will actually pre screen the men, pre screen the women. And instead of you going on 50 dates, you go on 3. But the 3 dates that you go on, um, you've been pre screened, and the chances of it actually developing into something lasting are far greater. All right, so
Because of this same method is used to pre-qualify the individuals
yeah,
or,
and
or something similar.
absolutely, and the matchmaker will actually make all the arrangements for you. You just turn up at the restaurant for lunch or dinner, and it's very easy. On For example, in your case, you would just they'd say that there are 3 people who I know, who we think, knowing you and knowing them,
Mhm.
who we think would do really well for you. Sandra, and then you'd go to 3 dates, and then something typical will come, and they will manage the whole process for you. But
Okay.
it's an extremely effective way of that works, right?
But does that but where's the love? Where
No,
is the
that comes.
passion? If
No, no, no,
because
no.
that's a fixed up situation.
Yeah,
Like
but
like in Indian families when they have arranged
no, no, no,
marriages.
no, 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 nothing like
No?
that. No, no, no. In other words, you have every right. In fact, you're better off, because when you go to that so when a matchmaker is organizing things, you don't, even when you end the date, you don't have to say to the person, "Let's go back, get back together," or not. You go to the to whoever is your matchmaker and say, "I like this person. I'd like another date," and she's gonna go to the other person and say, "Do you like that person? Would you like another
Okay, so
date?"
it's so
Yeah, it's not that
you have
when
you
when you,
pre-screen,
yeah,
and then you see if
yeah,
there's a connection.
if there's a connection, but
I
you're
get
far
what
more
you're saying
likely to have a connection if you have a, if you're with
because
a,
of the similarities.
yeah, because
I get you.
a matchmaker would, many matchmakers are also coaches. So a matchmaker
Okay.
would be able would know what you're looking for, know what the other person is looking for. And then
Okay.
so if they put you, in fact, many matchmakers don't even show pictures until the morning of the date. And some
Okay.
matchmakers don't even show pictures at all because pictures can often, people's uh, picture because a matchmaker would know beforehand that of that 80%, that person is going to hit 90% of it, right?
Okay. Get what you're saying.
So that's one of that is the most effective option. It's a very expensive option, but there will be some matchmaking businesses specifically for executives that will be coming soon, which we could look at. But that a matchmaker has to be certified in the same way that I'm certified as a coach. Um, you need to have you need to sign what's called the International Matchmaking Ethics document.
Hmm.
And there are other things as well. You need to be trained as a matchmaker. You can't just wake up one morning and say, "I'm going to be a matchmaker." You need to be
Get
trained,
you.
right? So
Yes.
that's one option. There's the other option of online dating, right? And the other option, you could ask friends to help you, and then there's the other option of joining different clubs to expand your social circle. But the key thing is that when you're doing that, you need to be able to identify who it is that you're going after,
Absolutely.
which is
We
what
still
we're
go
dealing with.
back to the list.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So that's the first and the easiest of the methods. All right.
Yes.
Are there any questions before I go
A
on to the
whole
second
lot of statements, questions. Well, Mia says she should we should she doesn't believe in women pursuing men, period.
one?
But there are other views um as to some people said no.
There's,
Just as
there's,
much we should be proposing some just as much as we shouldn't be proposing, whereas some people say um pursuing a man is easier than you think. Matchmaking, they they now say works well now because it does the checklist pre-checks and deals with the likely compatibility. Do you believe in it? And you just said yes, you do.
it works. It does
It,
work.
it
You're absolutely. It
works.
does work. There's no question that a professional matchmaker is your
Well,
best by
some
far.
people say that they have heard some horror stories, but then and you have to also understand that some people lie. So maybe
That's another thing about a matchmaker. All right.
yes,
Remember, there are horror stories, and that's because people don't realize that to be a matchmaker, you need to be trained and certified. All right.
to identify when people not
Absolutely.
telling the truth.
More than that, but to also to identify whether someone is telling the truth or not, but also to understand what it is that each person is looking for.
Is
That's a
looking
skill,
for.
right?
Get what you're
That's a
saying.
skill. So it's you, um, matchmaking is not only for relationships. Recruiters, professional headhunters,
Right.
do that as well, right?
Yes.
And in fact, many
Oh, somebody had
professional
asked earlier if you do if psychometric testing, or you believe in psychometric testing?
Not for matchmaking, right?
Okay.
You're talking about things like the Myers-Briggs type indicator test and that kind of stuff, right? The MBTI and etc. etc. That isn't really that critical for matchmaking, and matchmakers don't tend to use that kind of thing.
Okay.
A matchmaker is going to match what you are looking for and what you bring to the table with what the
Yeah.
other person is looking for and what they bring to the table. That's what a matchmaker does, right?
Yes.
And that takes training, and it requires the ability to properly interview. I don't want to use the word interview. Properly and openly discuss with
Mhm.
each individual, the males and the females, so you can figure out what each is looking for and getting the right person to get to the. So, for example, like we spoke about the fatal flaw.
Yes.
Um, if someone says, which is why we're jumping ahead a little bit. But say
Right.
I'm going to give you a little preview to the second one. The
Yes.
second technique is where you identify your three biggest wants and your three deal breakers. Right. So
Hmm.
let's say, for example,
So your three biggest wants
yeah, or your three biggest, the three biggest things, the three most important things you're looking for,
and then
and
the three deal
your
breakers.
three deal breakers. Right, that's the second we're getting to. So I'm jumping ahead, but say for example, someone says a deal breaker for me is if the person is not educated, right,
Or financially
or financially irresponsible,
irresponsible.
right? Okay, then a matchmaker is just simply not going to send you on a date. If you say that, they're just not going to send. They may have 10 different people that they think. So, say for example, the matchmaker is working for a woman, right?
Mhm.
I am your matchmaker, for example, Sandra, right?
Mhm.
And you say, I can't, a deal breaker for me is that the person has to be, if the person is not financially responsible, that's a deal breaker for me, right? And I have 10 possible people I could send you on a date with. And six of them say that why they believe in, splurging money on, they're splurgers and they're not
Mhm.
financially responsible, which a matchmaker would pick up both in. Yeah. Then I'm not going to send you on a date with any of those six. I'll send
But
you on a date.
question though, Robert,
Yeah.
are people in the habit though of telling you honestly their bad qualities? And then, as
That's
a few of us on this program also discovered a few weeks ago, there's such a thing as narcissism, where the person don't even know the issues that they have
narcissism is a whole topic in and of itself,
itself.
right? And the bottom line is that you should
The
really
coach, the
you should
matchmaker
never get
probably would be able
involved
to
in
pick that up.
narcissism. Yeah, you should never. Narcissism is one of the most dangerous things in terms of relationships and the effect upon individuals. Narcissism is like is something you just don't want to get
Yeah,
involved
we
in.
had a program on that, and it
Yeah,
was an eye
narcissism
opener.
is an extremely damaging trait to whoever you're in a relationship with.
Yes,
If you even suspect that the person you're dating is a narcissist, you're in,
exit stage left.
yeah, that is a topic in and of itself. At a
Yes,
particular coaching conference I attended, there was one speaker that spoke on one thing, and one she spoke about narcissism and the effect it has on people in relationships. And just suffice to say, you clearly had a program on it, but that's worth it. You don't want to
yes,
get into a relationship with a narcissist, right?
right.
So I'm going to get on now. As
Mhm.
I don't mind it going off into these avenues because it touches on these various things of us getting into detail. But the second
Right.
technique is your three biggest ones and your three deal breakers, right? Which is different to your 15 quality checklist. And what that does is you need to write down. I'll tell you this, it's actually good to have a coach because a coach guides you on the various
Right.
characteristics and things you're looking for. So I'm just going to give you quickly, I'm using my own. Remember, I told you I did all three?
Right.
I'll give you an example of things that you need to tick off, right? Or examples of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to give you some examples of what you're looking for and, you know, what possible deal breakers are. These are just examples. Now, remember your goal
Yes.
in the second technique is to write down the three most important things to you and the three deal breakers. Okay? So examples of that is how does the partner look or appear, right? Like they're grooming. Are they good looking? Are they well groomed? Does their partner have a job? Does your partner have money? Is your partner religious and spiritual? That's critical, especially in Jamaica. There are lots of women who, churchgoers, women who believe in, I'm not, let me not say believe, but who, especially when they're younger, will just not go to the man who is not a Christian, right? You
Or
mentioned
you have to believe in God.
no,
But I'm like,
yeah,
just Christian, period.
that's what it typically morphs into, right?
Right.
Which is what I think. This is just me personally. Is a more what word should I use? A more reasonable approach, right? Someone who believes that God is love and who is who believes in a personal God. But many, especially younger Christians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only Christians, the whole evangelical movement. You know, if a man is not on fire, the term is on fire
On
for
fire for God, for the Lord.
then that for them is a deal breaker, which is
Right.
which is that's just one of these things, right? So you need to understand where you're coming from on that, right? So religion, spirituality, race, and culture. Right? Would you check a white man, right? Or or are they smart or intelligent, right? Are they? What's their family background? Remember that was asked before.
Very important.
Well, we'll get into that. What is their emotional maturity? What is their age? That's also critical. There are some people who simply have an age limit. They're not going to check someone who is younger than 35 or older than say 55.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. What's their age? Sense of humor. That's a big thing. Understanding, flexible, sexual appetite and drive. Are they
Very
social?
important.
Are they hardworking? Are they kind? Are they compassionate? Are they good to me? Are they able to commit? Are they similar to me, etc., etc.? So a coach will kind of walk you through these things on the 15 partner checklist. Um, but what I've done is just giving some examples of the things that you want on your 15 partner checklist, and also what are the most important things for you in terms of what you're looking.
Marjan is asking, do you believe Jamaicans have now become more open to relationship coaches, especially our Jamaican men?
Um,
What's your experience?
I don't know what it was before me, so
Okay.
I can't really comment. But what I can say is, as you can tell, uh, I'm not as mushy as other people, and as other people. And Jamaican men tend to be more practical and tend to avoid the mush, and so do I. So certainly, I have not an issue there because I'm very practical, easygoing, and as you can tell, coaching is not as intense and or as emotionally draining as therapy or counseling. So coaching is just like in a football match, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your objective is to go on the field of play, pop two man, salad two man, and score a goal. That's your objective. The coach, before you actually go on the field of play, is the one that will tell you, listen, if you want to be able to hit the goal every time, you roll the ball and you keep it in the X amount of 50 of practice shots. You run in between the cones, etc., etc. Right? Uh,
Right.
coaching is far more practical, and it focuses on, like I said, where are you now, and where do you want to be.
Yes.
For example, I would love to take over Usain Bolt's anchor leg of the Jamaican 4x100 relay at the next Olympics in 2021. But if I had a coach, the coach would say, "Boy, Robert, you need to first lose another 20 pounds."
Right.
So a coach will tell you straight up what it is that, or tell in that example would tell me realistically, Robert, your chances of that are not so wonderful.
Right.
Maybe you
Let's
should
put things
instead.
in perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll give a good perspective, right?
Right.
So that's what a coach does, right? So I'm going to give you a couple examples of deal breakers, right? So some of the deal breakers that I'm just taking this from my coaching list. Right. Um, some of the deal breakers that would be out there are your partner cheats on you, your partner has financial issues or problems, your partner didn't finish high school, your partner has family issues or problems, your partner has addictions like drugs or smoking, your partner is jealous. Jealousy is a big thing, or insecure. That's a big thing. Right? Your partner has bad self-care habits. Your partner tries to control you. Your partner criticizes you, etc., etc., etc. Right? So
Right.
these are things that are deal breakers. Please excuse my 8 month old puppy in the back. I don't know what
It's
is.
triggering him or her.
Yeah.
All right, no man, we can get back. We can get
So
past that.
yeah,
For
so the thing about is
yes,
that you need to figure out what are your three most important things and what are your three deal breakers. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna continue on that story that I started out about this person who I forced to do all three of the
yes,
checklists. Right. In fact, before I do that, I'll tell you what the third one is. The third one is actually what's called partner quality quizzes. Now, these quizzes are done by a coach, and this is by far the most detailed method of figuring out what it is that you need. And this is administered by a coach. And there are three areas that coach is going to quiz you on, and you're going to actually have to answer set questions that coach gives you, right?
yes,
And the first one discusses the social attributes of your partner, right? And you're gonna rate each one from 0 to 3, and then your coach will tell you how important that is to you. And then the second one, you're gonna ask about your partner's personality and their interpersonal skills. That's another set of questions you need to answer, and give it each of the questions 0 to 3. And your third one is a set of quizzes, actual questions that will help to identify your relationship deal breakers. What are the deal breakers in that relation that you just can't live with? That third method is done by a coach, and that basically is the most thorough way of digging into somebody and really getting to the core of them to figure out what it is that you're really looking for, what it is that is really your deal breaker. But that's done by a coach. So I'm just telling you that just to give you the context. Unless you're going to go to a coach, that's a coaching thing. You're going to be dealing with either the 15 quality checklist or the three top qualities, three deal breakers. All right.
David is saying that men generally feel that they don't need help in finding a mate because I mean, ladies are lining up, especially if they seem very confident. They have a good job, they drive a nice car.
That
They have a personality to stone dog kind of thing.
that
Those
is
men have women lining up.
yeah, that actually can be a problem. Okay, that can actually be a problem, and the reason that can be a problem is this, right? Um, as a man, you want to make sure that the woman that you're dating or the woman that you decide you're going to check wants it for you and not for the things
Absolutely.
with you, right? Um, so, in fact, that actually is men need matchmaking just as much as women, just to make sure that you find the right relationship. Because a woman will rush a man that and we all know this, will rush a man that she thinks has a stable job, um, is a man, and clearly can then satisfy her. When in truth and in fact, she really doesn't. It's not the man. It's not the individual's
Looking at
person
the
that attracts
stability he
her as
offers.
a man. It's what you represent to her. Okay,
Absolutely.
and that's a very real situation. And I'll digress from my three quality methodology to tell you this one story. The coaching world and the matchmaking world are very intertwined. In fact, my certificate in I'm actually also certified as a matchmaker, right? But it's not something that I've pursued. Maybe who knows? Maybe Sandra and I might pursue that at some stage. But it's not something that I've pursued to date. Um, but I was actually certified by Terry Orbuck under the auspices of the International Matchmaking Institute, which is an international body, right?
Right.
But, but the reason for that is that coaching and matchmaking are very, very, very intertwined, right?
Yes.
Because a matchmaker is a low level coach, really, right?
Right.
And many matchmakers work with coaches who are at my level, who are much, much deeper trained, right? Uh,
Right.
and coaches make excellent matchmakers. So many people marry the two things together: they coach and they also do matchmaking, right? Um, but when I was in New York, um, um, the actual on the matchmaking course, which was just one part, all right? So
Mhm.
we did the matchmaking course to the point of certification, all right? Person who was certifying me is a world-renowned matchmaker. No, I'm going to give you some context here, right? She charges. She had when we were in New York, her office had she had 4 employees there with her, 4 or 5 employees, and all they did was matchmaking. Um, she only dealt with the high-end employees, the high-end customers. So,
Customers.
right, so her employees dealt with the open close quote low-end customers. She only dealt with the high-end customers. She charges for the low-end customers. These aren't the ones she deals with. These are the ones
Right.
her employees deal with. She charges 15,000 US dollars. Okay?
Well, that is not low end. That's high end.
No,
That's
she
low end.
for her those are she don't deal with the $15,000 clients.
Wow. Well, I
Her
suppose it's how important it is to you to do it
Right,
right the first time.
the matchmaking in the states typically a low end matchmaker is going to charge 5,000 US in that region.
Okay.
But she obviously is a renowned
Right, right, right.
matchmaker,
Brand
renowned.
name, brand name. So she fetch a higher price.
Correct. So she would, but she don't even look at you unless you're a 50,000 US dollar client. You pay
Hmm.
50,000 US to actually be for her to set you up. I'm going straight back to David's question now. She only does matchmaking for men. Okay,
Right.
only, right. So her specialty is finding the right woman for her clients who are all men.
Yeah,
Right.
because if you're wealthy, you have a lot to lose.
Correct.
I don't have the time to be going
So
through
they were
several divorces.
correct, but there were probably 12 of us in the class, right, in the room, in and we all said to her, so why in heaven's name would a man who can afford 50,000 US? Because all of her clients are millionaires and
Right,
multimillionaires and millionaires, right?
right.
And we said, so why in heaven's name would a millionaire, want need a matchmaker, right?
Hmm.
Because surely and she showed us some pictures of her clients, and these were good-looking fellows, right? See,
Yes,
I said, why would they need you? Well, surely they have women throwing themselves at them every day of life. And she said, yes. And then she hit the key. She hit the nail on the head. She said, these are men who have everything and want everything. Okay,
right.
they want the best match they can possibly get. All right. And then she showed us some pictures of the women that she matches up these men with.
Right.
And I won't lie to you, they had to use a mop to mop up the, the floor because these women were stunning. These are model level women who have BSCs and MSCs and the cream of the crop, right?
Hmm.
See? And
Which
this is
also they also needed
they
problematics
also
too,
want
because
to
they
get
also have a lot
absolutely,
to lose and want happiness as well.
absolutely, right?
Mm. Get
So
you.
so the so the answer to David is that, when you are when you have a lot of choice, right? Okay, it's very important that you find someone who is not a gold digger and who is looking at you for who you are and not for what they want, right? That's just how it is,
Mm.
right? And Jamaican men especially, are in that situation where a woman, if you see, a woman will approach you just because of the car you drive, right, or the job you have, right, and will,
Women too.
what's that?
Women too.
Yeah, absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. And women too. Yeah, men will approach women just because of how they look, right? Trophy wives, okay. And that's not the basis upon which a true, meaningful, and happy relationship is. And remember that the objective of it, I believe in first principles. Huh? The objective of a relationship is to be happy. Okay,
Absolutely.
that's why you're getting into a
And to
relationship,
grow. To
to
be happy and to grow.
grow, to be happy, and to have companionate love. Right? Okay.
Right.
There's no point in being in a relationship and you're not happy. Okay. So, I'm going to give you an example of how critical that second um, that second
Point.
part. No,
Mhm.
the second part of the three important qualities and three deal breakers are, right. I mentioned to you about this individual that I forced, who was dating an absolutely close quote perfect person, right.
Right.
I forced him to do um, these exercises, right. And you know what came out to be his deal breaker? A lack of sense of humor, right.
Something as what we would consider simple.
Someone else that would not even come into the picture, but for this particular person, not having a sense of humor that was compatible with his, right?
Yeah, that would kill me.
Breaker, right?
Mhm.
Um, and the person that he was dating, which was beautiful, well educated, similar principles, similar religious background, everything, but just did not have a sense of humor that was compatible. Not that she didn't have a sense of humor, but a sense of humor that was compatible with his sense of humor. And
Right.
that was a deal breaker. That was literally a deal breaker. Um, and I forced that person to do all three, right? I forced them. I said, listen, do all three, right? I wanted to do 15 quality checklist. I wanted to do the three deal breakers, the three things you're looking for the most. And I forced them to do, um, I forced them to do the actual um, three
Mhm.
the quizzes that the coach gives. The quiz ones where I actually add up points, right?
Right.
And look at the three aspects based on your answers. And all three of them, right? It was it was unquestionable. In his 15 quality checklist, in his three that he circled as what he was looking for, someone with a similar sense of humor. In his three what he's looking for and three deal breakers, um, one was on his three what he's looking for. One of his three most important things was a similar sense of humor, and his deal breaker was someone who didn't have a similar sense of humor. And when he did the actual test where I evaluated and gave him points, that also came out as one of the most important things for him.
And
So
we can't trivialize it because really
you
it's like
cannot
something
say,
your soul need.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Right,
something. It was something his soul needed.
right,
Absolutely right.
right.
But
I understand
the
that clearly.
problem is that you see the other things. You see the wonderful body. You see the you see the
And the probably person is a nice person as well.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. You see,
But
perfect.
not nice for you. And that's what when we
Exactly.
started the program, remember we said we're talking about nice people getting together, but just
Right.
really not making it. And these are
Absolutely.
some of the reasons, but we really, as you said, we really don't know what our deal breakers are because we really never drilled down on it. For
Absolutely.
example, I can use myself as an example. I had a fairly tidy list. And then I was going to with my girlfriend, who knows me very well. And she said, Sandra, Lord man, dancing, what is dancing? But the truth is, I love to dance.
Right.
And I took it off of my list completely. But it's as if you chop off an arm
Right. It's
because
what your
that
soul needs.
connection
What your
with dancing is almost to me as important as sex.
right.
But you see, she didn't, because it's not important to her. To her, I mean, what is dancing when he's financially stable, when
Right.
he's a good parent, when he's a good this, when he's a good that? Those things are important to her. But
Right.
dancing may seem trivial, but it might be a part of my whole, not maybe, it is a whole
It is
part
as
of
part of
my
what your soul
sexual
needs in the
ritual.
body. Right.
It does it for me. And so for everybody, it's different. And that's
That's
why
what,
I said earlier, be careful who you discuss your list with, because it's not that they mean you harm. They really may not know you or that about you because maybe you didn't even discuss it like that. Yes,
right.
you may love dancing, but to the levels that it really affects you mentally, they
Right.
are not really aware.
Excellent point. That's an excellent point, Sandra. And that's why I said to you that you asked me about if the person loved. I said no. The most important thing is that the person must know you. Okay.
Right, right,
So
right,
for
right.
you now, the good thing is that you can book upon a man who drives a nice. My favorite car is a McLaren 570 GT. Most people that's a competitor. I won't ever be able to afford one. It's
Don't
going to
say
be,
that. Don't say that.
but let me not say that. But
Yes,
it would be very irresponsible to buy one. It's like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, right? So
yes.
so you might buck up on someone with with a McLaren, and who has a great job and very intelligent and mature, etc., etc., but they can't dance, right? And don't like dancing. And you will immediately know. You don't have to go through the stages where you date and then you sleep with the person and then you date for another 3 months and then him don't want to go dancing, you want to go dancing, and then it mash up. Once you know your deal breakers beforehand, from the minute
Absolutely.
from the minute you go to them on the first date. And the other thing is knowing your deal breakers beforehand allows you to ask the right questions in a casual way on your
Mhm.
first date. So you have now figured out, Sandra, that for you is a deal breaker,
It
which is what
is.
you just said to me,
Yes.
right? You just casually on the first date say, "What you like dancing?" And
Hmm.
the person, yeah, I like dancing, and or the person might say, no, I don't dance at all, and I can't stand dancing, right?
Hmm.
And you
So
explore that,
just keep it moving.
right? And so
Well,
you
Robert, we have about 10 minutes to go to 2 hours, right? And I have to cut off at 2 hours because I don't want to get
that's fine. We've covered we've
make
covered
my viewers tired.
we've
But
covered
before
basically,
we leave, we might have
yeah,
to have a part two. But before we leave, I mean, we spoke about a lot about the other person.
yeah,
We haven't touched or even scraped the surface of dealing with the individual now that's looking for that person. I
right,
just wanted to spend the rest of we may have to have a part two. We want to spend, because it's very important, because a
10 days
lot
on
of
that. I will.
unhappy persons are out there wanting a relationship, not necessarily maybe be ready for a relationship. So
Right.
we want to talk about a little bit now about self, and
Okay.
how do we prepare ourselves for that relationship that we are seeking.
Okay, that's a very, very good question, Sandra. It's an entire topic to itself, but
So
I
maybe
will.
we have to have, can we agree to have a part two then?
I don't have a problem with that. That's fine with
All
me.
right. Okay.
Um, so the first thing, we're starting out where you're looking for a relationship. Okay, before you can get into a relationship, there are two questions that you have to ask yourself, right?
Yes.
And the first question is, are you ready to trust again? Okay, that's critical. If you cannot answer yes to that question, then you're not ready for a relationship. Okay. And the second question you need to ask yourself is, are you willing and ready to share again? So those are the two things. Are you ready to trust again? Are you ready to share again? Okay? Those are the two questions you have to be able to say yes to before you can you before you should go looking for a new relationship. And this has to do with also, do you know it actually is a myth that you should never leave one relationship and go into another relationship. That's a myth. Okay. um, because many people, for example, get divorced today, but in truth and in fact they really have not been in a relationship for two
For
years
years.
right? Okay. So they may have divorced today or broken up yesterday, but they've not really been in a relationship. They've just been biding time, right? And
Right.
the feelings, the connection that went a year ago, right?
Right.
And the opposite is also true. You can have people who broke up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend 2 years ago, and the hurt is still so deep, or 3 years ago, and the hurt is so deep that they're not ready to trust again. Okay,
Right.
or they're not willing to share again, which means opening up yourself again, right? And those people are just not ready for a relationship yet. You have to get to that. You have to work on yourself to a point where you can say, yes, I'm ready to share again and open up and show somebody else who I am, the real me,
Yes.
right? And you have to also be at a point where you can say, I'm ready to trust again. I'm ready to trust that other person with me and with my feelings, right?
Right. So
So
you
that's,
really have to be truthful to yourself,
on
as
the
to where you are,
yeah,
in terms of readiness, for a relationship.
correct. And those are the two things, right? Those are the two things. Are you ready and willing to share yourself again, right? And are you ready and willing to trust someone else
Can
again?
I ask, do coaches work along with psychologists or psychiatrists? Do
Typically
they
not.
formulate partnerships,
No.
or when it's a
Typically not.
partnerships? Not partnerships, I meant. Well, I suppose in
Collaboration.
a
Collaboration.
partnership in a
Yeah.
sense.
Collaboration. The answer is
Collaboration.
yes.
That's the word.
The
That's the
answer
word.
is yes.
Collaborations.
Collaboration. The answer is yes, but typically not concurrently. In other words,
Okay.
if you came to me, for example, and because you are now ready for coaching, about
Mhm.
which is the whole aspect of what I just described, right?
Right.
Working with it to figure out where you want to be, what you're looking for, how to
Right.
behave on a first date, and also how to make that relationship work, which is what coaches do. Because a coach will actually work with you from when you start to actually
Right.
make sure that you're happy in that relationship, right?
Right.
We actually do things like techniques on conflict resolution in a peaceful, all of that kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
But if you come to me and I sense in you, Sandra, for example, that there is a deep hurt or a deep mistrust for men because of the previous person beforehand, right? Or that it may be something to do with, something to do with a family issue, or something like that, right? Your parents divorced and has had scarred you or whatever it is.
Right.
as a coach, remember, my job is to start at the present and move forward. I
Right.
may actually say to you, Sandra, let's meet again in 2 months. But in the
Yes.
meantime, I want you to go to this counselor or this therapist or this psychologist or this psychiatrist, depending on
Right.
how deep I sense that is. And you
Right.
need to
Because
work,
it will be
you need to work
pointless
with the
to
past.
coach somebody who is not ready,
Right. You need
or
to
in
you
your
need
estimation is not ready.
right, exactly. If I sense that you're not, remember, like I said, our journey as a coach starts when you are ready to trust and you're ready to share.
Yes.
If it's clear to me as a coach, you're not ready to trust and you're not ready to share because of something in the past, I'm
Yes.
going to say to you, listen, you need to resolve the past before you can move forward, right?
Yes.
And
And
that's
this
where,
goes for both men and women,
oh,
because
absolutely.
men have trust issues too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
No question. Yeah, I mean, nobody's perfect. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is. Nobody. I would go as far as to say that not one human being in the world is sane. We all have some side of us
Issues.
that is it. So
Once you go through life, I mean, you go through hurts, and there's
yeah,
some
exactly.
damage there that
But
we all have to work through.
right, you need to work that too. But the key, like
Right.
I said, the milestone. Let me put it
Right.
that way. The milestone or the key indicator, right?
Right.
See, is are you ready to share and are you ready to trust? And that means one or two things. One of them is that you've completely forgotten about what happened in the past, or two, we are able to deal with it in a mature way. Okay.
Right.
Um, so it doesn't mean that it just means that that's a milestone. You need to get to a place that even though you might still be hurting, right? Or
Hmm.
even though you might still have feelings for somebody else or whatever is in the past,
Right.
are at a place where you can say, I am going to move on. Okay? That's the
Right.
milestone. I'm going to move on by one, sharing myself again and trusting another person again. And that's a milestone. All right?
Right.
You need to be at that place. If you're not at that place, then you need to go back and either on your own or with therapy or with help get to that place.
The
Right?
bottom line is that you have to be in a place where you're ready to receive and ready to give.
Yes, which is what sharing is. Ready to
Absolutely.
receive, ready to give. Absolutely.
Right.
The other thing as well, um, and I think we're probably running out. We have run out of time, but I
Not
want to just
quite. Not quite. We have a few more minutes.
so, and from the standpoint of the individual now. Okay, so we're talking now to the individuals. Okay, one of the great things about the topic that we did tonight, okay,
Yes.
which is identifying who, knowing who you're looking for, is that it does two critical things. Actually, I told you two, but I'm going to give you a third. Okay. So recap, um, it allows you to be much more relaxed on a date. Okay.
Absolutely.
Because you know what you're doing on the date. You know what you're looking for, and you know what questions to ask, and even in the most casual way, because you
Yes.
know exactly what you're looking for, and you know what are your deal breakers. So
Yes.
you're far more focused on the other person than worrying about how you yourself are coming up. Right?
Yes.
It makes the dating process much more comfortable. Right? The other thing, the second big advantage is that you don't end up wasting time. Right? So just because all men, and I'm just gonna be frank here, all men have their body parts, that they like. You have leg men, you have bottom men, you have top men. I won't reveal what I am, but all men have their pet thing, right? Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Don't
so
think we don't have ours too.
absolutely, women have
Oh,
them too,
so
absolutely.
let us tell you.
Absolutely. But a man
Yes.
will go out on it. Say, for example, a man is a top man, okay? Okay? And he goes on a date with someone, with a girl who is absolutely fabulous. And we're all adults online here, right? Okay? So you go out with a man, with a girl who has fabulous boobs, right?
Yes.
And that's all you can think about. You want to go on third date, the fourth date, because in your mind, all you're thinking about is, getting your hands on those boobs.
Right.
But if you're clear about your deal breakers and what you're looking for, and she has a very glaring deal breaker, right? Okay,
Yes.
then you won't go on the second date and the third date. In other
Is
words,
that true though?
if
Because men,
yeah, it actually is true.
because men appear to have that other aspect of them called ego, so they don't want to be labeled as soft, or
Yeah, but it's
or we're
not
talking about the man who's really serious about finding a
that
relationship that
that
works,
works, and
and a
women
mature man who knows himself. That's the man we're
exactly.
talking about.
That's the
Absolutely.
point I'm making. Remember I
Okay.
said that what we're talking about here is someone has reached the point where they're looking for a relationship that will make them
Absolutely.
happy, right? If
Yes.
if you're looking for a role in the sack, that's fine.
Yes.
That's nothing wrong with if two
As
consenting
long as
adults
as long as it's two consenting adults and
are
not you
aware,
not
absolutely.
you alone
Right.
agree.
And everybody, as long as everybody knows where they are. In other words,
Right.
if it's clear that, listen, I'm here because I just need to be with someone and vice
Right.
versa. Right? See?
Right.
You're two consenting adults. Who am I to judge another person? Right? If
Absolutely.
the two of you as consenting adults that's what you want,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm not gonna say that's right or wrong. That's not for me to do. But the thing is, you both have the same expectations and you're honest. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I am here. What I am doing and what I'm talking about is about people who are looking for a meaningful relationship, long-term relationship that will
Absolutely.
make them happy. Okay.
Yes.
That will
Happiness
make
is the end game.
right
So with
happiness.
that
And
said,
right.
we'll have to wrap tonight. Boy, Robert, I learned quite a bit. I'm going to do my homework, right? And I want to invite you back. We'll work on a date, but what I want my viewers to leave messages, stating what areas you'd really like us to focus on. You have been very interactive tonight. Many persons were talking about, especially I think they're big on the deal breakers. Everybody giving their view on the deal breakers, right? But it's also important to know what your needs are, not just what you don't want, but what you actually do want. So I want to ask Robert, how can we find you if someone was interested to getting a relationship coach? How do we find you?
Um, well, they can. I first, I'm not a social media person by nature,
Yet,
right?
yet
But
working on you.
I know, it's
Yes.
terrible. In fact, as I mentioned, I actually am an IT. I mean, I manage an information technology company, so
Exactly.
and I'm
So you
not.
have to get with the program.
I
Now
know,
that
I
you're
know.
coaching, you have to
Love
get with
the
the program because
conversation.
your viewers
Right?
need to get to know how to reach you.
Yeah.
How
So
can we reach you?
they can email me,
Mhm.
or they can
What's
just
your email address?
um, mm, you could let's use okay. You could use pen and paper. Robert Davis, one word. Robert Davis,
Mm-hmm.
2346
Mm-hmm.
2346
Mm-hmm.
at yahoo.com. That's my Yahoo address.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So people can email, and that's my personal address. So they can
Okay.
email me there. That's not a problem. I will respond. The
Respond, right?
the other thing as well is that you can always send Sam. Um,
Yes.
um, that's Sandra's nickname to me, by the way. I come from the Samuel side of things. So
Yes. And
Sandra,
I send your WhatsApp to them.
right? And so you can just let Sandra know, and Sandra can send the information to me. And coaching is it's actually fun. It's informative, and it's something that is actually very helpful.
Well,
I will, yeah.
the thing is, Robert, we put a lot into education. We put a lot into buying nice houses. We put a lot into buying nice cars. How much time and effort do we put in at least trying to achieve happiness in our relationships?
Which is why
I
we're
think we are long past knowing that love alone, or what we consider to be love alone, doesn't work.
uh,
It has to be more to it in terms of compatibility. In terms of, I always say, I don't think divorce is a high rate. I think the selection process is the problem. The original selection of the mate is the problem. That's my personal view.
that's actually true.
Yes,
But also remember that that's true. That's actually true, and that's what we covered tonight. But even
yes,
for people who are in relationships now, so this
yes.
is the other half of the people listening. Even for people who are in relationships now, there are very practical things that can be done to make that relationship better,
Better,
and
which
to
is
achieve
good to know.
happiness in that relationship. Because many
But
people,
that also requires two participants. One hand
not
can't
always,
clap.
not always, not
One
always.
hand can't clap. You have to have
Remember,
two willing.
Sandra, remember, right? This is the controversial part where me and Sandra will come to blows, guys. So you should you can post this on YouTube. I'm just kidding. Um, there are things that, although it does take two hands to clap,
Hmm.
there are things if you understand the situation, right? Okay, you can actually change that situation even without the other person knowing, right?
What
Um,
about resentment? What about if I am always the one fixing? Don't I, after a while, start resenting you for always having to be the one to shift?
well, let's take that point, all right? Um, there are certain things. One of the things, remember, coaching is a wide area, right? So one of the things is conflict resolution. How do you resolve a conflict, and also how do you communicate things that you're not happy with, right? Many conflicts are born from just how you communicate to your partner.
Hmm.
So without the partner being involved, if you go to a coach and that coach um, educates you. You use the word educate, right?
Hmm.
Because nobody in school, when we went to high school, when we went to, wherever we went, we did our education, right? They don't teach you how to relate with other people, right?
Absolutely. That's true.
It's not part of the curriculum, right?
That's true.
So if you go to a coach and a coach educates you on what has been found to be the best way to communicate to your partner in a
Hmm.
way that results in a positive outcome as opposed to a negative outcome, right?
Okay. Hmm.
Then you can change the relationship you're in just by that extra
I see
knowledge
what you're saying.
on your
Oh,
own,
I'm getting you now.
right?
I'm getting you now.
And so that's all part of it, right? So it's all about coaching is all about the best way to put it is coaching is all about what research has shown works. That's the
Okay.
best way I can sum it up.
Okay.
For
Well,
example, right.
with
So
that, Robert, thank you so much. You have given us a lot of nuggets, right? To my Facebook and my YouTube tribe. And we're all going to do homework, right? We're all going to do our homework. And maybe next time when because I'm going to invite you back. Next time we can probably touch on the conflict resolution because that is a big challenge
yeah.
um, in relationship. and some other areas that we can, help ourselves to have productive, loving, happy, um, and relationships that last.
And
Because that's the aim of the exercise. Would like to be in relationships that lasts, so that we don't have to break up the family. It's all about, keeping the family together, creating a happy home so that we have happy children, who then become happy parents in, as adults. Because it is a cycle. As we know, it is a cycle. Because many persons now have to be going to psychologists and psychiatrists to heal all those wounds from their yay high coming up. So I want to thank you very, very, very much, Robert. Really appreciated it.
my
Um,
pleasure. My pleasure.
my Facebook friends and YouTubers, like and share. Remember, I post it on the page, Samuel Sandra, and I post it also on YouTube. So you can always tell your friends to watch, get the nuggets, and then when next we meet again, we can speak, or we can have this discourse again about how to achieve, you know, happiness in our relationships. Good night. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I wish you a fantastic week. Holidays coming up again. Independence. I wish you a happy independence, and have a fabulous week. See you next Monday, same place, same time, 8 p.m. 8 p.m. at Samuel Sandra Facebook Live and YouTube Totally Male Spa. Night. Night, Mr. D.
Night. All right, we'll
Okay.
talk.
All right. Okay, Mr. Davis. Good night.